Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Online Darts Live League preview. Here I am, Phil, and I'm joined by the asset, Paul Nicholson. Paul, it's been some week, hasn't it?
It's been enjoyable. I think there's been a lot of standard performances from certain folk, but I think when you dig deeper into week 4, you get some good stories.
Yeah.
I think obviously Buffy was going to go into with Group A, and when it came to Group B, I think it was quite open. But Group C for me stole the show. I think looking at some new talents like Ritchie and I'd heard a lot about Darren Beveridge before he showed up for Group C, but I was impressed with Jamie Clark as well, even though he didn't get through. But so much going on this week. It's been brilliant.
It's been an awful lot of stories this week from day one. Almost, obviously, like you said, all eyes were on Martin Adams, and day one he gave us a bit of a fright. We're like, oh, hang on a minute. He didn't produce on day one, but days 2 and 3 vintage.
Yeah, day one he looked a little. I think rusty's probably the wrong word. I think it just took him a little bit extra time to get groove back. But when you look at Tuesday, he got it back really fast. I mean, an undefeated day. He went from 5th in the table on Monday to being top of the table after Tuesday, and that just goes to show the class of the bloke. And being able to do that takes real spirit.
Yeah, we're going to pop the table up on there. Come and stay in the chat room as well. So there we have it. After 3 days of action, Martin Adams, 11 wins from those 15 games, mightily impressive. But impressed with Sean McDonald.
Yeah.
Obviously, we were doing a bit of research on him beforehand, and he was one of the generation played to very high standards as a youth, and then gave the game up, went in chased other things, like got qualifications. I didn't realise he was saying he's a child of Canton now. But
yeah, he's got desire, hasn't he? I spoke to him most mornings and a couple of evenings that he played this week. Learned a little bit about him. He's got a lot of desire to rekindle some success. We know he won the 2002 World Youth Masters, and he doesn't want that to be the end of his story. I think the way that he approached is really good. I think he understood that he was going to be a bit rusty come Monday. He played quite well, and he gradually improved as the week went on. And you just feeling that when he played in Group C on Friday, it was just one hurdle too many, and he was starting to hit the wall. But a mightily impressive week from him.
Yeah, Jamie Lewis fits and starts. You could see he hadn't played a lot of darts, and confidence was still fragile. When he was good, he was very good, but when he wasn't quite on, we saw that frailties that he'd shown in the previous year.
Yeah, unfortunately so. I was very pleased to see him play some really good stuff at the beginning of the week. That's what's encouraging. We know that the final 3 days he only got 1 win, but I think he needs to go away and look at the positives from earlier in the week, because there were some. There was some good 180 hitting in there. There were some good checkouts, and he might feel a little bit fragile today after an unsuccessful week, but there were some positives.
Keelan Kelly's one that I watch with intrigue, because when he's on, he is very good. When the radar's off, it's wayward, and he's got a very Michael Smith throw. I think I said this last week. So it's a very slinging action that when it's on, that drives happen.
Potential there. I think from a mental and a technical perspective, he's incomplete. But what I like with Keelan is the fact that the basic stuff that you need to be a very highly skilled dart player is there. In my opinion, if someone came up to me and said, has he got what it takes to make the top? I'd say yes. Over the next 6 years, I think, and I'm going long term here, I think over the next 6 years, if he eradicates the low pull, which is his miss, it's a lot of low fives, and he's missed a lot of singles this week. If he eradicates that and he improves, and I think he's got a fantastic future ahead of him.
And Bradley Kirk, again, grew into the week. You could see he was very, very short on match practice at the start, but grew into the week. And come yesterday, we probably saw the best of him.
You're not expecting me to say this, and I've spoken to you for the last half an hour. He's my player of the week. You think about what he's been through the last couple of years. He's obviously had problems. The way he's conducted himself this week with sheer professionalism. He's been like a mouse in here, not saying anything, and he's just got on with it. And I think he may have taken some inspiration from what Barry Bates a couple weeks ago. From the bad Monday where he lost 4-0 4 times, and we're all thinking, ooh, I don't know what's going to happen the next couple of days. I'll tell you what, for the next 4 days, he stuck to his task, and I was might be impressed with him. And it's not just about the wins, getting the points, the picture, the 180s. Sometimes you've got to look at the character. The character Kirk.
No, definitely. Again, we're not ignoring you in the chat room. Keep those questions coming in. Someone else is there. I just said impressed with Bradley Kirk. Showed fighting character. Yeah, 100%. We'll keep coming to you in a second. We're just going to get through the bits we need to do first of all. Then from there, we came into the next one. And a man you know very well, Kevin Burness. Top of the table, and again,
not win the daily table on either Thursday or Friday, but top the B table anyway. That's consistency right there. He stuck to his task really, really well. And the one game that really tells the story about Burness this week is that Bradley Kirk hit 5 180s against him on Thursday. He still won 4-2. So it just goes to show he stuck to his task. He didn't play his best this week so far. He might be saving his best for tonight. And it is going to be a thorn in the side of some people tonight if he starts to get what he was getting on yesterday, which was a very highly skilled level of play.
And again, just keeping on that table there, Stephen Burton scores with the best of them. But at times, the outer ring is an issue. If he can tee it all up on one night, he could be a huge danger tonight if it clicks.
Yeah, Stephen is an infuriating talent. I love watching. I hated playing him because he's very, very good. But for me, Stephen has got this somewhat relaxed way of playing the game. He's fast, furious, and really focused when he's looking at the board. But is there other improvements for Stephen Burton to make? Absolutely. But I see him right now being someone who can trouble most players, especially the players for tonight. He could be a really good dark horse.
And then this is the one that I really enjoyed watching after the Darren, Beveridge, Greg Ritchie, Sean McDonald, Jamie Clark, what's 5?
Beveridge won the table yesterday and he won it the day before. He was a picture of consistency, playing some great stuff without playing his best stuff. So like Burness, like Steve Burton, maybe he's saving his A+ quality for maybe later on tonight. But no matter where you look in that table, there's quality. Greg Ritchie's had 2 performances last night. His also is 46%. That's world class. That's up there with the best, like cross and right in there, full pump. But the one at the bottom of the table, I've got to mention Matty Tennant because he's been brilliant all week. He's worked super hard. The more he's able, he puts off at the bottom of Group C. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't make sense, does it? But unfortunately, he lost a lot of close matches. That was his downfall.
Yeah, not many people may know this, but he was robbed is the wrong word, but he was very firm favourite going into Houston. A lot of people were talking about it. Unfortunately, he was one of 3 players that had the dreaded positive test and couldn't participate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't know a lot about the young man. Been playing what I've seen so far in 2 days, he would have been a huge danger at Houston.
I said yesterday, I think he's doing what he's and I think quickly. He's got some plans, and I think and when the challenge tour comes back, get on this guy. because he is that good. And it just goes to show what Beveridge has been able to do the last couple of days, because he's denied Greg Ritchie the top spot in the group. It was a really entertaining group, really fast, really entertaining darts, and I can't wait for tonight to start because we're going to get more of it.
Yeah, 100%. In the comments, let us know who you think is going to go on and potentially be of how people qualified and how people came through. There we have the 5 players that will play the 10 games this evening, and from there we have the fixtures pool. Which one?
And I think it was quite easy to pick fixtures. Tonight, not so, because we don't have as much form information going into the finals. What we have are 5 players who came through one group. We didn't get anybody who played 2 groups to get through, which is the first time that's happened this month. So when you look at these fixtures now, anybody who hasn't played Wolfie is going to have to check themselves and think, wow, I'm playing Martin Adams tonight. They might not have done it before. But looking at the all-Scottish clash between Ritchie and Beveridge, if they continue to play at the level they were doing yesterday, they're going to cause real problems for the likes of Wolfie, in my opinion. So as far as I'm concerned, the one that I'm looking at the most, and very clever of them to do this one, is Adams versus Beveridge at the end, because I wouldn't be shocked if that was for the win.
Going into this, in your opinion, who's favourite?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you look at the sporadic nature of brilliance from Ritchie. I wouldn't negate the fact that he could possibly do this. I think from an experience perspective, obviously Wolfie's played 3 days this week. Everybody's only played 2, but he's had a 2-day break. So there's a lot of equalisers here. But I think Darren Beveridge may go in as a slight favourite because he's got momentum. He won the table on Thursday, he won the table on Friday, and he's just in a habit of winning the table. And by the end of yesterday, when he finished with a 4-0, you just get the feeling he was in a pretty good zone. And if he starts well tonight, he will finish well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We're just going to get up there again in the comments. Let us know. A lot of love for Darren Beveridge. But it's that time of the week where we can release week 5. There's a few returning names. Obviously, people have had to travel to come into the bubble. So the lads that have come from Scotland are getting half a week and then a full week. So Monday to Wednesday, we will see Dave Parletti, Kevin Burness, Jamie Clark, Greg Ritchie, Darren Beveridge. And this one, I can't wait for. Cameron Menzies will make a debut in the live league. We'll come on to him in a second. And then once we split, Thursday and Friday AM, we've got Mike Gillett, played for Wales and Hampshire, Conan Whitehead, Barry Bates. In the evening, this could be a little bit special. Yeah. Ritchie Burnett returns, and then for the first time, we see Nathan Gervin and Alan Norris.
Yeah, I'm out of all of those. I mean, I could easily pipe for Norris, who is a former European Tour winner, of course, and multiple PDC title winner. And obviously, we're going to be really entertained by Ritchie Burnett once again. It's all about Nathan Gervin. For me, I think Nathan is the best young player in Scotland in his age bracket. But I love the fact that the question that I posed maybe 2 months ago at the World Championships, or not 3 months ago, I'm getting my time wrong. Where are the next generation of Scottish players coming from? The Online Darts Live League is answering that question. We've got Beveridge, we've got Jamie Clark, we've got Ritchie, we've got Gervin, we've got Cammy, and I'd like to see at some point next week. I'm not going to be commentating myself because Mace is doing it, but I'd like to see Cammy versus Burnett. I mean, that is just carnage on a cracker. I mean, can you imagine if they're both on their 100% unpredictability scale?
Oh, I must admit, I can't wait for Cammy because we don't know what he's going to do. He doesn't know what he's going to do. And let's be fair, he could go up there and go 180-41, 180-26.
Yeah, he's like just. You've seen Family Guy. You've seen the arm flailing inflatable tube man. That's what he's like on the hockey. And he played MVG in Austria once. MVG hated playing him because he was so flaily and animated. And this is not the biggest room we've got here. So he's going to be all over the place. He's going to be wild entertainment.
Just to still baffle you how he hasn't got a tour card yet?
No, not at all. No, I think he's too unpredictable. I think to be a tour card holder and to keep it for a long period of time, you've got to have a level where you can just stay at. He's just a bit like a Richter scale. He's up and down. A bit like, when you're putting voice control into an oscilloscope, it's just like this. It's all over the place. And I think if Cammy is going to have a sustained period as a PDC tour card holder, he's got to just level out a bit. We love the fact that he's not like that, but at the same time, to his detriment, it's costing him some time on the PDC tour.
Again, Alan Norris as well. Went into Q school and all eyes were on him, and we saw moments of brilliance. Obviously, what he's been through in the last 2 to 2.5 years has been just heartbreaking. But he's coming through that now, and this could really give him a springboard, couldn't it?
Yeah, we saw what it did for Dave Evans. We saw what it did for Ritchie Headhouse, seasoned talents in their own right. And we saw what Keane Barry was able to do when he came in. So from a young perspective, it was good for him. But for Norris, for someone wanting to rebound, I suppose you look at Robert Thornton, you look at Chuck Norris, and you think this is an opportunity for them to just gain a little bit more confidence with their competitive game. And Alan has not been playing his best darts for the last 2 to 3 years. We know that. And the likelihood is it's because of his mental state with what's been going on in his personal life. Maybe he's at the time now where he can possibly look forward and try and figure things out. But he's not a spring chicken. He's not a Keane Barry. He's not a Nathan Gervin. He's not a kid. So if he is going to get it back, he's going to have to do it quickly. But he has to.
One name you touched on there was Robert Thornton. I remember when he lost in the final here to Chaz Barstow, he went back into the practice room and he was like, "Get me back here. I want to come back." And for Robert to say that, because over the years he's not been the biggest practicer and things like that, this is giving players the bug again because it's competitive. It's just does wonders for your confidence. And for people like you say, Robert, and that, this could be a real springboard to good things again.
I think when you starve elite talent of something that they're really good at, let's take 2 different pools of thought here. One is you've got a player that has fallen out of love with the game, has come off the tour, but you've got another player who has come off the tour who still loves the game and still wants to play. You put them both in this atmosphere, I think what you're going to find out is whether they really want to compete. I think that's the main question that we're answering with the Online Darts Live League right now, because with someone like Robert Thornton, he could easily say to us, "Do you know what? Had a tour card for, 12 years?
Yeah.
Lost it because I wasn't good enough. I've come away from it. I've had a great career. I'll easily slide away into obscurity and have my own life." If he'd have done that, we would have all said, "You know what, fair play." But he wants to come back, doesn't he? Norris is the same. He has genuinely said out loud, "I do not want to stop yet. If I'm good enough, I will get back there." And this is a perfect vehicle to do that. 2 great examples of that, and I'm sure I might see that from other people as well.
4 weeks in now, what's your highlights been so far?
Boy. Bradley Kirk this week.
Yeah.
Barry Bates in week 2, being able to respond to a really slow start and causing problems for a lot of the players that they've come up against. I've enjoyed watching Martin this week. I think, if you're a darts fan, just being able to talk to Martin and see the wisdom that follows him around him. Just an amazing player to learn from. And as an analyst myself, I still get little tidbits from him that really prick my ears up and make me think what a privilege it is to call his games in. But I think my highlight for the 2 weeks that I've covered would probably have to be Group C this week. Genuinely impressed with Greg Ritchie and Beveridge, and I'm not going to leave Jamie Clark out of that. I think he's got a really good game and another level to find. But I just love the fact that Scotland has got more people coming through, because Scotland is a heavyweight in the game.
Sure, I'll touch and go back on something you said about players that drop off the tour, and if they've had great careers, they just want to slide away, that's fine. I know you're a huge fan of American sport, and the way they do the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Now, although we have got a Hall of Fame in the PDC, I'll say, because it's not really a darts Hall of Fame as yet.
Yeah.
Would you like to see a proper Hall of Fame and it means something? And because these glittering careers that do dwindle out, for me, not enough done to celebrate them at the moment.
I think it's a valid point. I think you've got real estate somewhere around the UK, because I think if you were going to have a Hall of Fame, it would probably have to be here, or maybe the Netherlands. But there's enough talent, enough time in the game. I mean, you think about the Super Bowl started in, 1969, 1970? Yeah. So it's not that far ahead of darts when it comes to the greatness of the game. I know that the American football preceded that, but so did darts.
Yeah.
If we had a Hall of Fame that was independently funded by the private sector, potentially, or even funded by the PDC in some way, to have an official Hall of Fame and put the PDC Hall of Famers directly in there to start with, I think it'd be a great thing, because there are players who potentially could grace a Hall of Fame. I was privileged to a bit of information about Lakeside, and is that place going to be holding darts events in the future? We don't know. We might have inklings that it might happen in the future, but we're better to have a darts museum, and we're better to have the Darts Hall of Fame than in Frimley Green, because let's face it, that's what everybody thinks about when it comes to how darts has been before Ali Pali. So that's what I would do personally. And I would have a museum where darts fans from around the world could maybe come to an event that is held there, and at the same time go and have a look around and see some rare pieces of merch. They can buy some stuff. This is a business opportunity, right? And I'm not one to run forward with this, but I'm betting that somebody probably would want to do this if it was viable.
Oh yeah, 100%. I just say that because obviously WrestleMania is tonight. We obviously saw the WWE inductees and whatever. I just like the way American sport does the whole Hall of Fame thing, where over here it's more of a token gesture. It's not really taken seriously.
Well, let me flip this around on you. Who would you put in?
Martin Adams.
Okay, perfect. Steve Beaton.
Yeah, I think Steve obviously will go in because he's a, in brackets, PDC player.
Yeah.
Where I don't think Martin, as it stands, would ever go in to the Hall of Fame because he didn't make the jump. But does he deserve to be? Absolutely.
There's so many other players you could talk about who won the World Masters, maybe never won the sort of Lakeside World Championship. You could talk about someone like John Boy Walton, for instance, who won the Masters and Lakeside back-to-back. Andy Fordham.
Colin Monk.
Yeah, great examples of what we're talking about here. And this is something that maybe your fans would like to get in touch about. Yeah,
no, 100%. Let us know in the chat room what you all think. Some of our old favourites are in here. Missy Mad, how are you all doing? Should start earlier for WrestleMania, Mark. We're not allowed to, unfortunately, mate. Timings are set. But let us know in the comments who you would like to see in the Hall of Fame. Good one here from the Raven Effect, and it was Darren, who I was going to talk to you about anyway. The news broke this time last week. The World Seniors.
Yeah.
Take you back a little bit?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, am I 8 years away from that?
Yeah.
So maybe I can get this shoulder fixed. I might be able to do it myself. But I think there were a few dart players, weren't there, who were saying, I wish I was 50 years old. But this is a great idea. I think you look at the success of the seniors event with snooker. People love it. People like to reminisce about who they used to watch regularly. And there are some great talents over the age of 50. And I don't think that just because you've done something previously and you are over the age of 50 means that you should automatically get a spot in that. I think the field has to be strong. You have to still be able to throw a mean dart. So that's why someone like Wolfie is absolutely ideal for this, because he's still averaging over 100 and things like this. Bob Anderson can still play. And, it is tantalising, isn't it? And I'm really, really interested to see who picks up the first title, because you and I both know, Phil, how much Taylor likes to be the first to do something.
Yes.
He will earmark this and he will put everything into it.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward. I'm being a bit selfish here, but if this goes as it's wanted to, this is going to be a year-on-year thing, and I hope, obviously, it's going to progress like the World Snooker Seniors Tour has. 5-6 years' time, Phil Taylor, Gary Anderson, Simon Whitlock, Peter Wright, Phil Taylor, Martin Adams. This could be some spectacle.
Yeah. The snooker one's really strong, isn't it?
Yeah.
But this darts possibility, it's got legs. And I don't mean that's no pun intended, of course. It's got sets. I think if it's a world crown, it has to be set format. I don't know whether you've talked about this with the people with online darts, because I think it should mirror the same sort of format, not the same sort of length.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to get some of these lads up there. They might not want to play best of 13 sets.
Let's be fair, I don't think they could. over that longer period.
Some of them could, some of them couldn't.
Yeah,
because they don't have the exposure to play those long format games. And
100%.
I think the stats would reflect a real tailing off towards the end of the match.
Yeah.
So we need to keep it fair. But set format, yes. But does this thing have years in it? Absolutely does. Look at the PGA Tour champions and how well it has done for people coming away from regular tours. Darren Clark, Bernard Langer has created a legacy for himself. Colin Montgomery finally won a major at senior level, and there are other examples of that. I mean, Jay Haas and loads of other people have elongated their competitive life because of seniors tour, and I see that for darts.
Yeah, darts does a lot of good things, especially with the youngsters, the way they bring them through. But like golf and snooker, and we touched about it, there's nothing at the top end once you finish your career. It's almost done onto the conveyor belt goes on.
Yeah.
So this will be a real good thing if this can evolve into a full-blown seniors tour. And I'm not on about they play every weekend in Wigan and Barnsley, but even if they had one weekend a month or something like that where they do something and it all progresses to that would be quite special.
So what you're saying is at the minute it's a bit like a cliff edge.
Yeah.
When it's finished, but you're putting in place a stair lift.
Yeah, 100%.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a market for it. I think if you have enough dart fans out there who want to see this, I mean, a little bit of market research won't go amiss. See if people want to see it, see what the general consensus is from the dart fans. And yeah, don't do it too much, don't saturate it.
Yeah.
Just maybe one event every 6 weeks would be perfect.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Just that's something so that it's not just one event a year. So it gives them something to keep their eye in and just tick over nicely.
Yeah. I mean, you've got great players over the age of 50 already. So when you talk about the likes of Whitlock and Peter Wright and Gary Anderson and Glenn Durrant already over the age of 50, and they're thinking, you know what, maybe there's not as much pressure to keep my tour card into my mid-50s because I have the added bonus of now going towards the senior bit. So it's just a slightly different dimension. I like it.
Yeah, I'm going to jump into the chat room here. Henry, where is it? A good one for the Hall of Fame. Trina Gulliver. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the 10-time world champion is one of the best players that we've ever seen. And she does deserve that MBE as well.
100%. More for a charity work more than anything.
Yeah.
Forget the dart side, but what she's done for charity is unbelievable.
Lovely lady. Known her a long time indirectly because I've already written an article over the last couple of weeks about the fact that I first met her in January of 2000 when she was playing for Warwickshire, and she was by far and away the best lady player in the world at the time. And she may have actually come to the PDC if it wasn't for the BDO creating the Women's World Championship.
100%. There's lots of great questions here. We'll do Ask the Asset. I know we're starting a bit at the end. There's lots of questions here, but obviously we can't not do a little question. Premier League, 5 nights has just come and gone. If you're evaluating it, thoughts on if you were grading them at school, who comes top of the class?
Rob Cross has impressed me. I have been beating his sort of form drum a little bit. I've been looking at his style over the last 6 or 7 weeks, and I've seen improvement. I tipped him to have a really good UK Open. It didn't quite happen for him, but I thought, you know what? He's still going in the right direction. I'm not surprised he's picked up points this week. Obviously, Johnny Clayton has done brilliantly this week. I don't think that's a shock to anybody. So, I mean, we can give him full marks, but it's not a shock. What Rob has done has been excellent. I think Glenn deserves a medal for the fact that he's getting up there every single night and still working away at it. I think he understands via some of the social media posts I think he's been engaging with what is going wrong. There is a technical issue. So if he can fix that and just, chip away at a little bit more confidence, the likelihood is he probably is going to be eliminated. But at the same time, if he can play spoiler, like Bradley Kirk's done with us this week, then he can do himself a lot of credit. But looking at Jose de Sousa in second last spot, that doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense to me. Well, Jose de Sousa doesn't really make sense to a lot of people. I love the fact that somebody bought him a calculator from Amazon this week and tried to send it to the Milton Keynes. That's a good prank. But MVG has left points there. And I think when you look at the breakdown of the points between top and 8th, boy, there's nothing in it.
No.
And it makes block 2 look a little bit tantalising. I'm really looking forward to the next bit because I'll be fascinated to see where people are positioned after that.
A couple of bits off the back of that. One, has Gary Anderson got work to do? Because it doesn't look like the old Gary Anderson right now.
It's not the Gary Anderson from 10 years ago, or even 6 or 7 years ago, where he can just pick up a dart and be unbelievable. What he can do is he can pick them up now and be very good. Yeah. He can still pop in the 98 without any practice, which to me is astonishing, really. But in this company, you're probably going to get found out a little bit more if you don't put in a tiny bit of work. As for whether Gary is going to be, needing a really bolstered campaign in block 2, of course he is, because of who he's playing against. Everybody who finds form will get points. At least they should anyway. But I think Gary's the kind of person, he's money hungry, isn't he? He understands that this is a very big prize and he will try his kahunas off to try and get in that top 4.
Talking about Glenn as well, there was a really good clip on social media, and Glenn, I think Glenn interacted with it as well. There was a clip side by side of his throw when he won his last Lakeside title and the throw from this point in the Premier League, and there is noticeable differences. Obviously, like you say, you're a coach and an analyst. When someone puts that in front of you and you see that, is it easier to understand it or is it worse because you're thinking about it?
You've got to know what the problem is intrinsically. What I mean by that is you've got to know what it is within yourself. It's easy to see it from the outside and think, oh, that's different. It's not as good as before, but you've got to know how to fix it. Now, with Glenn's throw, what he's doing is he's extending too much and his backlift has shortened. He's almost got into Devin Peterson territory where he's not actually bringing the dart back before he propels
it's starting too far. That was one of the things that I noticed. It's too far there.
Yeah.
Where before it started there, came back and went. Where it's starting there,
it's become less
only
compact.
coming to there and going like that.
Yeah, it's always been a very compact throw. With everything that happens is in this sort of zone here within the eye line. It's getting further away. So what he needs to do, the ideal time to try it is now, is to try and find a new spot where he's prodding the dart forward less. Try and half that, and maybe try and half it again to try and keep the action a little bit more compact. Glenn's a really hard worker. He has got a bit of time now, and he can fix it. But when you make these big changes in the middle of the season, don't expect any results immediately, unless he's an absolute genius.
In a fairy tale world, if he comes back in those blocks, 4 wins, could he still avoid the drop, or do you think unlikely?
Of course, it's unlikely, but we saw people do really well to avoid the drop last year. I mean, Daryl Gurney had a dodgy start to the Premier League in 2020, but he managed to take advantage of Rob Cross dropping off a little bit. So maybe if a couple of the players have a bad block 2, and he has a really good one, if he fixes the technical issues and gains a bit of confidence by spending a bit of time with family, which all helps, maybe he can get himself out of this. I don't see it, and I'm not putting Glenn down. I would never do that because I'm a huge fan of his game. I think he's got an immense amount of belief and tenacity. But if he is going to get out of this and somehow play past judgment night, it's a bit like, when they ask who's the manager of the season, and you automatically go for Pep Guardiola. Well, no. What you do is you give it to David Moyes because of what he's done at West Ham or what Bielsa's done at Leeds. Well, if Glenn gets out of this, he's going to need a lot of credit, like the examples I've just mentioned. Because when you get yourself out of these sticky situations, that's where the real confidence can fly.
Some more good news from the PDC this week as well. The World Series, we are going to have one World Series event by the look of it with fans in Copenhagen somewhere. I know that you go with the Euro Tour and that big moment for darts that they're going to get a big time event in Scandinavia.
Yeah, I almost want to be at the first event that has that level of fans because you wouldn't believe how much I miss it. I go to European tours all the time and, we expect, what we get from European tours. It was heartbreaking being at Sindelfingen and Riesa and Hildesheim back in October when there was nobody there. It was eerie and it wasn't as much fun as it usually is. But it's good that the World Series is going to be in Australia and New Zealand. It's great that it's going to be in Copenhagen, hopefully with a jam-packed crowd there. It's a great arena. It's really good acoustically. I remember Johnny Clayton playing against Pearl Larson there. What a game that was.
Yeah.
It was absolutely symptomatic of what you want from a game. You got the home person against the other person from another country. They don't want him to win. They want him to win. It was amazing. If you've never seen that game, have a look at it. It's incredible. But yeah, I really hope that it happens. And this event has waited long enough, I think.
Yeah, right. We're going to jump into the chat room now because there's plenty of questions fired at you or people asking. Where are we? I love having the chat room up here. It's great you guys are all there. Says, love Darren Beveridge's nickname. Yeah, ice cold.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so that's a good one. Get on Phil Taylor talking about the seniors. He's going to take some beating, but he's not going to have it all his own way.
No, he's got to do some work. He can't just hype himself all year and not practice ahead of it. He's going to have to put in some genuinely hard work on the board.
Yeah. One here said, Paul, one thing I've always wanted to know, are you and Simon actually friends?
Well, yes, we are. We get on really well. There was a time where we weren't. Before we played at the 2012 World Cup, which was our best one, actually, we had a period where we didn't speak for 3 months because I beat him in Killarney and he didn't like it. And we had a bit of a period where we weren't speaking to each other. But prior to that 2012 World Cup, we somewhat sat down, made up, and that was the best World Cup we had.
Yeah. So there you are. Someone says, how many players in the seniors? I think it's 16 for the first one. But obviously they're looking to expand that. But for the inaugural one, 16. Lots of love for the seniors, Steve Beaton. Yeah. We've just done that one. Henry says, best of 3 sets until the semi-final, best of 5 and best of 7 in the final. That could kind of work for the seniors.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think most of these guys would be very comfortable playing best of 7 sets. But you wanted to be quite cutthroat at the start, similar to the Grand Prix. I don't think you should be given the first round best of 5 sets like the main World Championship at Ali Pali. I think that'd be wrong.
I'm not sure if you said something in commentary here, but Jason says at the asset, I can't stop seeing Frank Grimes every time I see De Salza now. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, that's brilliant. We talked about that when he played in Denmark, and we talked about Frank Grimes and Jim's dad from American Pie.
Yeah, I like that one. Charlie says, question for Paul. How did you feel when you were on the stage at the iconic Circus Tavern for the 2010 Players' Championship Finals in your first round match with Dennis Priestley?
I didn't feel that bad, actually, for that match because I'd previously played Dennis in majors and in other events. So I didn't feel as nervous as I did when I played him in the Worlds. But I had a bit of a sketchy time getting to Purfleet. I'll write that about that in my book one day. But I felt really comfortable with the way my game came out. If you look back at the end of 2009, I was actually playing very, very well. I got to the semi-finals of the German Championship in Halle. I lost to Taylor there, and it was only the snow that cost me a really good World Championships. I lost to Terry Jenkins in round 1. If it wasn't for that, I would have beaten Terry, and I would have had a very decent Worlds. But my revenge for that was winning the Players. But I felt really good in that first round match. Speaking
of that, Dimitri Vandenberg in the chat room enjoying the stream, guys.
Hey,
Dimmy's in. I'll tell you what, it's going to be some practice household going on in Leicester over the next week, isn't it? Dimitri, Damon, Hector and Jose.
Well, to be fair, I can't think of 3 players who are going to batter that board more than them. And we saw what happened with Dimitri when he was at Peter Rice last year and how his game on stage just went like this. So the people that are going to benefit from that are Dimitri, are Jose, and especially Damon Hector, who, when he came over here, probably thought that originally he was going to have time with Kyle. That's obviously not materialised, but I think as the number 1 Damon Hector fan right here, I think Dimitri and Jose are going to bring his game on, and he can do the same for them.
Question though, can Dimitri and Damon teach him to count in a week?
No, don't bother. Don't bother. He's great the way he is.
Let's go for it. Patrick says, which players are playing next week? Paul didn't say during. No, we'll give you the list again. So from Monday to Wednesday, we have Dave Paoletti, Kevin Burness, Jamie Clark, Greg Ritchie, Darren Beveridge, and the Mad Frog, Cameron Menzies. And then when we split, AM, Mike Gillett, Conan Whitehead, Barry Bates, and PM, Richie Burnett, Nathan Gervin, and Alan Norris. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I think Gervin with Norris and Burnett and some people from the original group, I think that has got real potential.
I know, obviously, we can play it out in our heads, but how would it be to have Norris, Burnett, Menzies?
Carnage. We're going to have to knock a wall down and create a bigger room. I think, you know what Alan Norris does when he starts wafting his arms around and flailing his shoulders a bit? If you get him in with Cameron Menzies and then you've got this super kick from Richie Burnett, I mean, all we need now is a bit of Nathan Aspinall action when he gets a bit lively on the hockey, doesn't he? So this room isn't big enough.
That's going to be absolutely amazing. Could you imagine that? I'd love that every minute of that.
Come on, Mace. You're going to be calling us in next week. You've drawn the launch draw.
Yeah. Here we have another one. Says, hi, Paul. What is your best world final? RVB versus Taylor? ?
No, absolutely not. I think that's a lot of people's favourite final for obvious reasons. But I was a 12-year-old kid watching Gregory Taylor, and I remember biting my fingernails. And I think the one thing that I really enjoyed about that match more than any other is because I didn't have a favourite. I suppose I was a jockey fan back in 1992 and a bit of a Priestley guy. So with that in mind, I was watching that game as a complete neutral. And I thought, this is the best game that has ever been played. And just for that, I've kept it as my favourite of all time. Since then, I actually didn't watch the RVB Taylor final live because I was in Australia and I was at work and I couldn't watch it. But I do remember watching every dart of the part final against Taylor in 03. And I remember wanting John to win that just to change things up because Taylor won it so many times. I thought darts just needed a fresh injection. That's exactly what we got.
Yeah, I really like the Lewis Anderson 16 with the one that Gary won. Again, styles make games as we well know. I just watched those two guys.
Things are forgotten because there's so many of them. I mean, the Anderson first World Championship 7-6 against Taylor. That's a largely forgotten final, probably because Gary won the last set very easily. And we shouldn't forget that obviously Gary had the 3 on the floor and still won the set.
6-4 when he gave it the game over as well. I mean, when he walked off, if I remember rightly, he gave it the it's done or whatever it was.
Yeah, the thing is that, this question asked, 10 years ago? It was a lot easier to answer, but we've had so many great finals in the last decade that we have to start talking about a lot of them now. Not just Parr against Taylor, Painter against Taylor, Taylor Gregory, but there are others. Look at 1989, Wilson against Bristol was a fabulous final.
Yeah, you said about your two favourite players, Jockey and Dennis. Couldn't get two completely contrasting styles there, could you?
Yeah, I bet they had some tussles away from the cameras. But I mean, there's other finals that you could think about, which are great finals standing on their own. But don't forget about Wolfie against Phil Nixon. We're talking about specifically PDC finals here. As far as BEO finals are concerned, we can talk about 92, which is my favourite game, but in the top 10 has to be Wolfie against Nixon, which was very reminiscent of 89 between Bristol and Jockey.
One of my all-time favourite games, even to this day, is still Mace against Wolfie in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
I could literally watch that all day long.
Yeah.
It captivates me, it really does.
What was really fascinating about that time frame is that not a lot of games were shown live. So you had to wait until 11:15 at night to watch it on BBC Two. I don't know what it was like around the world, but having to wait that long to see world-class darts, it was horrible. And that's exactly what was wrong with the game until we started having Sky Television, of course, and other networks around the world starting to bring things to the masses. And as a result, darts has got its popularity back.
Yeah, 100%. Can't wait. Someone asking, Paul, is Paul still playing? Not right at the moment, injured.
Yeah.
But we'll be back hopefully end of the year time.
Yeah, operations coming up. We've got some consultations this week as well. Just looking at some nerve damage in the elbows and things like that. Operations will have to happen So I'm going to use this year to try and put everything right so that I'm fully fit for a Q School campaign. I've just thrown a couple of darts backstage, just cheekily, with my mask on, and I used somebody else's darts. Then, of course, sanitized them back, but give me a bit of insight into what potentially I could do with my kit as well, because that is something that later in the year I will be working on with Winmount.
Oh, interesting. A complete new barrel. Are we talking length, weight?
Grip technology, probably. I've used the same one for a few years, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I think there is something not right with what I'm using currently that needs to be addressed. It might be stem length, it might be flight weight, but I think there needs to be some sort of stability in the middle of the setup to try and find what is missing.
Back to a pair? Or is that
No.
Are they done?
I'm not good enough to throw pairs. Smaller the flight, the better the player. That's what I always say. So I need all the forgiveness I can get, so keep me on the standards.
Well, guys, thank you very much for joining us. We've waffled for nearly 50 minutes. Remember, we will be live back around 9:20 tonight. First start at 9:30. Paul's going to be calling it in Online Darts TV and your favourite bookmaker platform. We can't wait. It's going to be epic. 10 games. Who wins? We don't know, but we can't wait to see it. I want to thank you all for your time, as always, and we will see you guys very soon. And it doesn't